working across, as I said, more than 35 defence projects to support the ADF. In terms of the spread of employees, so we do have quite a diverse range. So anything from sort of engineering and IT, project management through to trades, and also enabling functions such as, finance, HR, commercial and procurement, and those things. The reason why we're here today, obviously, is to talk to you about our graduate program and internship program. So I'll give you a quick overview of both of those. So the graduate program is a 2-year program where you'll do 4 6-month placement rotations. Those placement rotations are designed to give you as much experience and development as we can across different projects and different areas of our business. And at the start of your program, we'll work with you to, map out where you'd like to see your career grow and what your ultimate end goal is at the end of the 2-year program. In terms of what we're able to offer our graduates, they all receive quite a large amount of training and development, mentoring and support, and interesting and inspiring work, which hopefully we'll be able to talk to you about more shortly. And there's also, plenty of opportunities to collaborate with graduates and employees across Australia as well. And we have a national graduate conference as well, which our graduates all kind of travel to one central location and get to kind of collaborate and share ideas and that sort of thing at that event, which is quite cool as well. So as I mentioned, we have got Andrew and Ed with us today to talk to you a bit about their experience. I've got another video which I will try. Hopefully this one will work with some sound. If it doesn't work, I will share it as well. Okay, that's fine. It doesn't want to do that. And as I mentioned as well, we do have an internship program. So there's an annual internship program over the summer. It's a paid 12-week program that we offer. At the start of the internship, we again sit down with you, work out some learning goals and measures that we can work through with you and evaluate you at the end through your end of internship presentation. That's really an opportunity for yourself to share any key learnings and achievements with some senior business leaders. And we also use that presentation and feedback to consider you early for a graduate position with us. So that is the end of the presentation. We really wanted to keep that short to give you as much time as we can to go through your questions. What I might do is I might get Andrew and Ed just to give you a quick rundown into their career so far. And then, we can start going through any questions that people have as well.
I think my career is a bit shorter, so maybe I should go first out of the two of us. I probably won't take as long. So I guess I can I'll start at the beginning of my BAE career, because that's basically where it did start. I had an internship at another company, one internship for 3 months or so, and that was sort of the beginning of my engineering career. But as far as BAE goes, so as I said, I joined February 2019. So I applied about a year before that under the graduate program. So did my interviews, whatever, got accepted, came in, arrived about a year, 2 months ago, 14 months ago. I'm in my 3rd rotation at the moment. So first rotation I did was in our office in Williamstown, which is sort of West Melbourne, over the Westgate sort of area, if you're not familiar. I was a mechanical engineer in maritime sustainment. So I worked on a few sort of sustainment projects under the Anzac class frigates, which is a ship that BAE Systems built over there in Williamstown back in sort of 1990s time. I then had a 2nd rotation over in the Richmond office in weapon systems, working on Nulka, working on it was a mechanical engineering position, but not a lot of mechanical engineering in that particular role, a fair bit of electrical systems sort of stuff. So quite different to my first role, a bit different perspective on things. And then this year, so as of a couple of months ago, as you can see, I'm at home right now. I'm working from home for the last, month or so, but my role is back in Williamstown again. It's a production engineering role. So I'm now working on sort of enterprise resource management sort of stuff under maritime production. So working out how many valves and pipes and items need to be bought for a ship upgrade, and which things need to be bought, which can be reused, that sort of thing. So like logistics sort of stuff. So I've had quite a, broad spectrum of experiences over, just a bit over the half of the 2-year program. Fourth rotation, I'm still not sure yet what's going to happen, especially with all this, coronavirus stuff going on. But that's, sort of a brief overview of what I've been up to.
I guess for me, I originally from Adelaide, so finished uni over there. While at uni, did a little bit of I guess work experience, internship. I guess the experience you need to to graduate with BAE, and then after that followed on working for BAE. I guess as again a work experience, try and get more skills up. From there, was able to actually apply for a graduate role in Melbourne. So that's when I've moved over to Melbourne to start my, I guess, career as an engineer. So and this is only, I guess, 5 years ago, the graduate sort of landscape looked a bit different. I think now, there's this fantastic sort of 4 rotation and ability to sort of see all of the company. But I guess I just started in the Nulka program. So I was part of the Nulka launch subsystem, which not sure how familiar anyone would be with the Nulka system, but essentially it's a self-defense system for ships. And then we basically work on the launch side of it. So there's the decoy that actually goes and flies off and does its thing, and then there's the other side of which is the launch subsystem, which actually is involved with all of the, I guess, the tactics and everything to launch it all off. So I've been really, really privileged, I guess, that I got to come in early on with that. And I guess one great thing with defense stuff, you have this ongoing life cycle where I've sort of taken on a few subsystems of my own. As a grad, I sort of was given a little bit of leeway, here do some things and work on these subsystems and sort of do the mechanical design, the drawings and all that with a bit of oversight. And then over the last 5 years, I guess I've grown more and more to be able to do this myself. So definitely something you get to sort of take on something and actually see it the whole way through. I've basically now, and Ed was even involved with some of the stuff where we designed it, we're building it and then actually verifying it, testing to make sure it meets all its requirements, to actually do updates for production and stuff where you build the first prototype, it's wrong, you got to redo it again, or you test it, it's wrong, got to redo it again. So there's been a lot of that design and update sort of work. And then now we're sort of basically to the point where I've been able to sort of see it go on ships. And so to explain as well, the Nulka system actually sits on all, I guess, the ANZACs, LHDs, AWDs, and there's one other I'm forgetting. But anyway, so it's sort of been a great opportunity to see through that entire life cycle of design, systems engineering. So as Ed mentioned, I think, and mechanical engineers especially, you get this really great, I guess, breadth of work where you're not just necessarily doing mechanical work, you're actually having to, I guess, procure things and try and work out what's best and try and then do the drawings, then deal with the electronics guys, then deal with other people and deal with the systems team to make sure that you're actually meeting all the requirements you need to. So you end up getting you pretty much touch every base and you're really involved with everyone in the team rather than just being in your own little silo. So I guess, yeah, I'm 5 years now and sort of being able to see that thing through. That's probably about it.
Excellent.
Great. So did you guys want to answer some questions now from the audience?
Yes, absolutely.
Yep. Okay, so everyone, rather than, I guess, everyone turning on their microphones and everyone need to go to hospital with bleeding ears, let's post some questions in the chat. So at the bottom of your screens, you see a toolbar and there's a chat symbol. Simply just write your questions into there. And I hope Brenna, Andrew, and Ed, you can see the chat.
Yep.
Yes.
And then I guess, yeah, just take your time to answer any questions, and hopefully we'll receive some more over the course of the session.
Excellent. That would be great. So there's not a share screen for this little component here, but hopefully you'll be able to see us responding to you when we answer your questions. So the first question that I can see is the internship only for local students? So unfortunately with our graduate program and most of our intern roles, we do require people to be Australian citizens. And the reason for that is that to allow people to kind of move freely through kind of those different projects that we started to speak about, we need to get them a defence security clearance. And a requirement of that is to be an Australian citizen. So we do generally tend to look for Australian citizens for our programs. Got a question from Alyssa about, and sorry, Ed and Andrew, feel free to jump in at any time. Got a question from Alyssa about, can mechatronics engineers apply for BAE internships? Absolutely. So when we advertise for these, we might specifically ask for mechatronics engineers, but if your degree is relevant to that area, definitely apply for that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I might just add on to that. There's a guy just come to mind. I think Andrew knows him as well. Andrew studied mechatronics engineering and graduated with a degree in mechatronics engineering, then applied to BAE, I think, under an electrical engineering role, and has done, as we say, a whole lot of electrical and mechanical work. So I think it's in a lot of ways a strength to have a mechatronics degree. I kind of wish I had one. It wasn't available to me at the university I went to. But it would be, absolutely. I think there's roles, maybe Brenna can correct me, there isn't a role that's called mechatronics engineer, but it's, you can still do it. Yeah.
Absolutely. So a bit different for BAE, we do have a few graduate mechatronics roles this year.
Okay.
But yeah, we definitely, like you said, they can be applied across many of our disciplines. So definitely relevant for us, which is good. In terms of how many people we accept into the program per year, it's usually between, and it depends on what's happening in the business at the time, but it's usually between about 80 to 100 roles. So graduate roles, so people accepting and that sort of thing. The next question is about the criteria for acceptance into internship and graduate program. So I guess, as I mentioned, one of the key things for us is for people to be Australian citizens so that they really can get that breadth of experience through different projects as they go through. In terms of the criteria, it does vary role by role. So I guess an important thing for us when we're looking at candidates is we're not just looking for technical skills. Technical skills are good, but we're also looking for behavioural fit and fit within our teams. I might leave the next question to one of our engineers. So in your opinion,
skill
guys,
as an engineer. Okay. I was looking at this one. I was trying to think of what questions you guys would ask, and this sort of came to mind. I tried to think of, out of at least all the graduates that I know in my cohort, what we would all have in common in terms of skills or, attributes or something. Well, at least I can speak to everybody except me. I don't really want to toot my own horn here, but I think having a strong sense of collaboration, being able to work in teams is a good one. Everything you're going to do in any, pretty much any industry, but certainly engineering, certainly BAE, is going to be, you're going to be in a team, you'll be working with people, all sorts of different backgrounds, all sorts of different, degrees, levels of experience, all of that. Being able to interface with all those people, get the help that you need, ask the questions when you need it, all that good stuff. That's what I would say is if not the most important, one of the most important skills.
I definitely agree. I know one of the big things I guess learned about probably myself when I was coming through as a grad and through my experience, just asking a question when you sort of need it. So not just immediately asking for answers. You have to think about it. You sort of process what you think, what you think the answer would be. But I guess one of the great things, within the office, I've always found, and I imagine everyone wants to help. So there's always this thing where if you go up and ask someone, hey, look, I've thought about this, and this, and I'm like, oh, well, yeah, go think about this, or here's some information. And it's sort of just not just sitting there doing absolutely nothing or trying to spin your wheels for days to a week. Just ask a question, someone will help you out. In the end, you'll get far better answer, and you actually you learn from it. So I think just having that thing that you don't always have to be right. And the other one as well, I'd say, is just learning to just process through. You might not necessarily get the right, or you might not have the answers, but if you can have that logical thinking of, okay, what's this impact? So if I make this design change, well, what it impacts this, and this, but does it also impact, the electrical guys? Does it impact how we've done some analysis? Does it impact this? Does it impact that? Just, I guess, thinking as broadly as you can about the impacts of decisions you make. At uni, you sort of go, okay, well, great, we've got this one little, I don't know, problem you solve, and you don't necessarily have to think about all the things outside. It's just solve that problem, and great, you're done. That having that lateral thinking is really, really critical. So, and it's something you develop. It's experience.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like, it's uni problems, everything really exists in a vacuum, right? Like, you finish your question, you close your book and it's finished. But then, like any sort of serious engineering project, everything's multifaceted, everything's connected. And yeah, I mean, and even that, like noticing those connections could then send you off on a path to find the right person to talk to and ask your questions to the right person. So.
Excellent. I'm just trying to catch up. We've had lots of questions pop in, which is great. So the next one is from Tasman about how knowledgeable were you about the graduate program before you started. So I think for myself, my mum actually worked at BAE Systems for quite a number of years before I came along. So some might assume that I would have known a lot about defence and what she did. But realistically, I probably had a pretty baseline average understanding. It's really it's quite complex, and it is quite hard for, I guess, students to really understand the ins and outs of working in defence unless you've actually done it. So I think my advice in regards to that would be do as much research as you can on the company itself, but I wouldn't get too caught up in not knowing the ins and outs of how defence works and operates, because it is quite complex.
Yeah, definitely. I knew next to nothing about defence when I applied. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I wasn't drawn to it because I loved defence per se. I was drawn to this job because, one, it's like a really cool, you just get to do really cool stuff. It's a really cool, technically oriented company. You get to work on amazing projects that really, in a lot of cases, no one else in Australia or even the world is even doing. And then also the fact that you're just in defence is one of those sort of industries where you can see a direct tie to the difference that you're making. So if you work here, eventually you'll get a chance to talk to people in Navy, Army, Air Force, whatever, about the system that you're designing and how it helps them. Maybe it saves their life, maybe it makes their day easier every day. So those are sort of the reasons I got into it. I wasn't didn't come up looking at pictures of fighter jets or whatever. Not that there's anything wrong with being passionate about that sort of thing, but for me, I didn't know a lot. And now I know a lot more, obviously, having been here for about a year. But it's, I'd agree with Brenner, it's not essential, but it obviously helps if you've got some sort of background on it, at least what BAE Systems does.
Andrew, did you have anything to add to that?
No, I'd agree. I didn't necessarily have any real, I guess, understanding of defence and how it all works. I guess, you look at one thing that the company's quite good at. So I guess systems engineering as an entire discipline that I'd never heard of as a thing. And then you suddenly get here and like, wow, like that seems to be what, BAE especially there's a lot of systems engineering going on, which the company is more than willing to teach you. There's weeks of not weeks, but there's this training course you do where they step you through each thing and they show you the importance and sort of how to do it. So yeah, anyone who doesn't have necessarily the knowledge on how defence works, you pick it up really quickly and people will walk you through it.
Absolutely. I think the key message here is research the company. Don't worry too much about, I guess, the ins and outs of things that we wouldn't expect you to know. What we really want to know is, what do you know about BAE Systems? And if you can, try and get past just that initial first thing that comes up on Google, try and find out a little bit more. That shows us, you're genuinely interested. You've taken the time to have a look at our company and what we do. And yeah, I think that it stands out when people do that. So that'd be one of my bits of advice. The next question is about what are the internship roles and are international students able to apply? So similar to the graduate roles, a lot of our internship roles do require defence security clearance. So again, people to be an Australian citizen. In terms of the types of role, it varies year on year depending on kind of what the business is doing in terms of projects they're working on and that sort of thing. We quite often, engineering's our biggest intake for both our graduates and interns, and it's usually spread across all of our major disciplines. So mechanical, mechatronics, software, electrical, electronics, ICT, just off the top of my head. So
was the question about, was it about what are the roles, or was it about which roles allow international students to apply? Maybe I'll ask that person to clarify, just because I don't know. Is it clearly signposted to you, Brenner, on the advertisement whether you need to be an Australian citizen for each particular role, or was it safe to assume all of them? Or?
Yeah, so we put it in our ads if it is required.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. So next question is, what do you look out for in a candidate and what stands out to you most? All right. So probably touched on it a little bit before when I was talking about, people who have put in the time and effort to research BAE Systems and they know a little bit about us. It's often one of the first questions that we'll ask you, what do you know about BAE? And if you can give us a response that kind of shows that you're genuinely interested, you're passionate about, wanting to work for us, that will straight away make a massive impact. It makes a really big difference compared to someone who goes, I don't know what BAE are, and people do course BAE.
Oh no.
So what do we look for in a candidate? I think when we're looking, and shortlisting candidates for roles, we consider a number of aspects, but I think the key message here is that it's a piece of a puzzle. So we look at kind of your uni degree and GPA. So, what sort of results you're achieving. We look at any work experience that you've had. So, whether that be from Macca's or, a junior engineering role somewhere. And also extracurricular activities. So if you're a member of a society or if you've done some volunteer work, we look at all these things to assess you. Like I said, it is really pieces of a puzzle that we put together. We don't use GPA. We don't have a cutoff with GPA, as I mentioned. So everything is a piece of a puzzle that we take into consideration. And as we mentioned as well, those things about collaboration, being able to work in a team, those sort of soft skills as well are really important to us in determining your fit in our organisation. So the next question that we have is about the most appropriate time to apply for the internship program. So what we normally do is we open up applications on our BAE Systems careers website, usually around July or August, for the summer period. So what you can do on our website is you can set up some job alerts, so that when we advertise these, you'll get an email notification straight away. And the same can be done with graduate roles if you're not quite yet in your final year. So it's just a matter of going to the website, creating a bit of a profile, stipulating, internal graduate, and then once they go live, you'll get an email to let you know. All right. So we've got a question from Simmer about the technical skills that would be beneficial to be proficient at. So I might leave this one to Andrew and Ed.
I'm trying to think of a technical skill, like a software package or something that would be useful for any role for any graduate or intern, because there are so many, it's a huge, as we've talked about, there's a lot of different, a wide variety of roles that you can end up in. If I were to stick to specifically mechanical, even just mechanical engineering, I mean, it sounds stupid, but Excel, know how to use Excel really well. I think that's a pretty safe bet. It's something that you're probably going to use like potentially even every day or every week or so, depending on what you're doing. Any sort of data analysis skills are great. Obviously, you should know your actual degree and the stuff that you've studied, but on top of that, technical skills. I mean, I don't know, it's a weird one. Like things
I guess in the
things like FEA, you hear talking about a fair bit in mechanical engineering. That hasn't been that useful for me. I haven't really done much of it in my role. It ends up being I know it's more of a structural engineering thing, at least with what we do. But then that's only just in my experience. If you end up doing a vibrational analysis for, the rack for a bunch of, units or something, then maybe that will be useful. So it's hard to give a blanket response to this. There's no one single program that everyone needs to know how to use to work here, I'd say.
Yeah, that's even consistent across our other engineering roles. Even the languages we use across the company, the software languages, can be completely different project by project. In our graduate program, quite often we understand that people are coming out of uni with a base skill set, and our intentions are to grow and develop you in the areas that we need to as we go. Sorry, Andrew, I think I
was going to say, I guess from technical point of view, I don't think anyone really is expected. You expect to have your baseline knowledge, but whenever you're doing your task, even now, for myself, for Ed, for anyone you're going to be sort of brushing up on those skills again anyway. You're going to be looking at resources and there'll be experts there who've been doing it maybe for 20, 30 years. I guess for structural stuff, some of the guys down in Williamstown have been doing structural analysis literally longer than before I was born. So they're the sort of guys you go and talk to. And otherwise, I think really from CAD stuff, I guess Creo is generally what we use. A CAD, that's the only one I can think of from a mech eng. And ANSYS, I guess, as FEA, if people really want to just be familiar with things. But most CAD and FEA you can sort of pick up the actual how to use them anyway. So
Excellent. The next question is probably best for you too as well. Murphy's Law states that all that can go wrong will go wrong. How did you deal with setbacks going through uni, and how do you deal with them at BAE?
You want to jump in, Ed, or you want?
I haven't got one prepared. Have you?
I was going to say, uni, I can't say I necessarily probably dealt with them the right way. It was probably just getting frustrated and annoyed and that sort of thing. Same probably thing happens as well at work. But I guess the important one is that now you sort of you sort of train yourself to stop, to look back over exactly what you sort of fault find. For instance, we have I can't remember, they call it a FRAC at work. So essentially it's failure review, something. If something goes wrong, it's literally you go through, okay, what happened? How did it happen? What do we think the cause was? Then you sort of review what the cause was. People come around, people review that and go, okay, well, we're pretty sure it's this. Let's redo it. Let's see if we can find that fault again, or we can try and find how that failed or what happened. Put a fix in, tested that, fix it, and then you might do another formal test. So this is when you're doing formal tests to sort of prove that something is working. So it's really about just stopping, thinking, going over exactly what happened, rather than just sort of being emotional and really just cracking it and walking off. Sometimes it's good to just have a break and because you get pretty invested. As I said, some of the stuff I've been working on for 5 years, so when it fails, it's like this is it's almost my baby that has broken, that I'm totally gutted by. But you got to take that out and then really just go through the motions of it.
Yeah, I'd agree. I agree with everything Andrew said. I mean, being as systematic and taking a failure as sort of a learning opportunity, and as I guess taking a challenge as a challenge, making sure that you can use that to learn as much as you can out of it. Make sure you can, I guess, just find a way to find a positive from what's happening. I mean, I'm getting sort of more into life advice than how to be a good engineer, I think, at this stage. But I'm trying to think of some like big setbacks I've had at uni or at BAE. I mean, I think I'm familiar with some of the ones Andrew's alluding to. When I was in Richmond, we had a fair few failures that happened. You get like the same piece of stuff that you're running the same test on, failing over and over again. You have to go in and explain why it's failed for the third time in a row, and you start wondering, oh, okay, is this the unit's fault or is it my fault? Am I doing something wrong? And it gets into your own head. I guess it's about catching yourself and going, okay, like what's actually happened here? Get out of your head and get into some sort of systematic approach to dealing with the problem, and just try to always work towards a solution rather than focusing on the problem.
And just to add that as well, like and something I guess I got told pretty early at BAE that no one, unless you have maliciously done something to break or to cause any damage, no one is ever going to sort of, you're not going to get fired. You're not going to get, there's going to be no repercussions really, as long as you just go through and step by step. As Ed said, it's a learning opportunity. Everyone is here to learn, and we all want to get to the line at the end of the day and have a successful product. So that's what it's really about.
Absolutely. Cool. So the next question that we've got is, what benefits do BAE Systems offer their employees? So I think that question came from Harrison. Do you mean so employees in general or grads? Or just...
Yeah, sorry, I was muted. Yeah, look, my question was just in terms of, other than salary, what benefits are there to employees?
Absolutely. So there's some things that are consistent across, I guess, graduate employees and, people who have exited the program or are just a standard employee with the company. So the company takes quite seriously training and development. So really growing their employees and preparing them the best that they can, for where they want to go in their career. There's all the standard stuff, all your leave entitlements, annual leave, sick leave, long service leave, and that type of thing. We have a number of salary packaging options. So we have the option to purchase up to 4 weeks additional leave a year, which, could be quite good. We have annual performance reviews, again, linked to developing and growing your career. So setting yourself some goals and objectives and ways to get places. They're probably the main ones I can think of off the top of my head. Andrew, Ed, do you have any to add?
I'd probably say the other one is really just the ability of working from home, the flexible hours, I guess. That I know generally within our office, if you've got an appointment somewhere, sure, you can head off to do that. You make up your hours somewhere else, or you sort of adjust. Same with working from home. I might have a trade coming out. They go, oh, I'm going to be there between 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. You're like, well, I can't just take the whole day off. So you can work from home. There's a lot of infrastructure in place now that I know talking to other people in different industries, it took a lot of setting up to get work from home working, whereas I feel BAE, we sort of did it pretty well.
Great flexibility of hours, great sort of respectful of work-life balance. Like I started work at, I think, 7 o'clock this morning, and I finished at sort of 3:30. And I was doing that when I was in the office as well. Working from home, obviously now it's a different environment in which most of us are working from home, but even before that happened, it's absolutely fine if you've got, as Andrew said, you have to go off to do something. You're not going to be chained to your desk or anything like that. It's it's pretty good.
Absolutely. All right. So next question is about the procedure and prerequisites for applying for the internship program. So the procedure for internships and also the graduate program is to apply online via our BAE Systems careers website. In terms of that, there's an online application that you do. So that's submitting your resume, your transcript, and a cover letter as well if you choose. We then go through a screening process. So that will either be a phone call or a video interview before we do, in normal times, a face-to-face interview, but at the moment it'll be all online and virtual. And from there, it's once we've got our preferred people, we do background checks, security, clearance applications if we need to, and that sort of thing. The prerequisites really depends, as I was saying before, about what technical skills are required. It really does depend role by role, but in each of the ads for the area that you're looking at, it will tell you what we're looking for. So the next one I might leave for Andrew and Ed, and feel free guys to be as honest as you like. Was BAE your first choice?
I can give the best answer for this because it was my first choice out of all the offers I got. It was the one I wanted the most, and then I took it and I was happy. That's it.
Perfect.
Because I can expand on that a little bit. I mean, you hear at least because my career, as you guys know, my career isn't probably for a lot of you not much further ahead than any of you. I was at university 2 years ago, like applying for this job effectively, and a lot of the people I knew were just out there trying to apply for like 50 to 100 jobs or as many as they could get into. I took a bit of a different approach. I think I applied for like 11 or 12 in total because I only picked ones that I really, really wanted to have. And so all of them are really like one of the top choices for me. And so whichever one I ended up getting offered or whatever would have been great. But this was my first choice. So it's great.
I guess for me, I didn't necessarily have sort of grad intake. My way into the company was a bit different. It was, I guess, through what you'd say was the internship now, where you're sort of doing work experience within the company. And then once you're in there, you've got internal sort of vacancies that get filled. And that's how I sort of jumped in. So I guess by default, yes, BAE was my first choice because I sort of, it's one of those things that I chose to sort of explore and try and push into BAE and sort of explore that opportunity because some of the cool things you get to do, and you sort of went, well, I know that long term there'll be some really good opportunities, and there have been. So it was my first choice, but there wasn't really anything else that I was going for at the time.
And what does an ordinary day for a graduate look like?
Okay. Well, again, I mean, I can give the standard answer that it's going to look different depending on what your position is. But in my case, at the moment, it's actually been not too different now that we're all at home because a lot of my team work in our Henderson office, which is over in WA. And so already most of my sort of daily, weekly meetings and so forth were via Skype or whatever other chat, app that you want to use. So it's a fair, at least at the point that I'm at now. So as I mentioned, I'm in like a production engineering role. So it's like resource management kind of stuff. So it's a fair bit of liaison between engineering, between drafting, between production, and between planning, and making sure they're all talking to each other properly and have the same idea about what is happening with the material we're using to put our ships and our upgrades and our sustainment projects together. So a lot of that involves validation of data across a few different databases, which is why I had Excel at the top of my head when someone asked about what skills we should have. But then also as a graduate, like there's a lot of training, as we've talked about. So there's lunch and learns, there's training sessions, there's graduate learning modules that pop up every sort of few weeks, it seems. So you get a lot of chance to, I guess, sort of break up your normal work day and get to go and sit down and listen to an expert talk to you about something. He'll give you, some skills for your job. So that's what I've been up to lately, at least in this role.
Excellent. Andrew, it was a little while ago for yourself, but is there anything that you wanted to add? Or
I'd probably say it's not, from my recollection, I guess, wasn't too much different from, I guess, what I'm doing now, except that the oversight, I guess, is a little bit less. So to begin with, you start off, you get given small chunks of work. So it would be a little, hey, go investigate this and write up a sort of report, and someone will check in and sort of, you have a line manager who will sort of be directing you of what you're doing. So, I know some of the stuff initially I was looking at was like a investigation on where we can mount a little IMU, and it was just, okay, well, work out all the different things. You got to go through where it can fit, how it's going to work, what sort of environment needs to be in, and that sort of thing. And then you come back and you sort of share that with the team, and people will provide pointers and sort of say, oh, look into this and this, and then you go away again and you do the same thing. And so it was lots of those little things, or it'd be, go design up this, or go, do some drawings or something like that. So generally lots of little tasks, and then you slowly build up to more and more where you're doing larger chunks of work.
Yeah, and the level of agency or level of ownership of that task will vary a lot as well, depending on what project you're on and what the situation is. Like, some things you'll just work, directly with your manager or maybe directly with somebody else in your team, and some things you'll have complete ownership of yourself. It'll just depend on the size of the task and what's available. But yeah, you definitely do get a lot of opportunities to, I guess, spread your wings and take ownership of something, which is really good as a grad.
So the next question is about what would suggest in terms of not just technical skills, but knowledge about defence. So we touched on that briefly before. So I think just to reiterate that, just do as much research as you can about BAE Systems. Try and find out about, some of the projects that we're working on in your area that, might be of interest to yourself. And just, focus on, what you think you'd be able to bring to BAE Systems, and what would interest you about working with us, because ultimately that's what we're looking for. We're looking for, passionate people to join our program and help us deliver these solutions to the ADF. The next question is about were there any elective courses you took that taught you something you find useful in your career that you recommend doing?
I'm going to pull up my transcript and see if there are any of these that I've used directly. Because it's the classic thing, right, where people say, oh, I went to uni and did all this stuff and I don't get to use any of it in my job. You will use your general engineering principles, right? You'll use your problem solving skills that you've developed sort of secondarily to learning all the stuff that you have learned. In terms of have I ever had to do a Lagrangian equation of motion, or have I ever had to use Kirchhoff laws or something? Not really in the roles that I've had. It'll come up every now and then in my experience, but there's no one, I guess, subject or elective that comes to mind for me, at least in, I went to the University of Melbourne, which some of you may know, not really known for engineering, or at least not known for a lot of practical stuff. But yeah, there's not one, maybe thermodynamics. I did quite a bit of thermo sort of fluid related stuff in my first role. That just happened to be because it was quite a, I guess, HVAC, ventilation, air conditioning related role. So that was just by happenstance that I happened to use a fair few equations and things like that. But in general, I'd say not really. And most of the stuff that you are doing, you will be learning the ins and outs of it while you're in that project on that job.
I'd have to agree. Definitely have done some I guess analysis of whether it be FEA, so a lot of modal analysis on especially metallic structures, I guess, under vibration is one big shock and vibration. So sort of understanding that. But can I say that I was proficient before I started doing it? Probably not so much. I sort of, knew the basic understanding, and then you sort of do a little bit more refreshing on exactly those sorts of areas. I feel honestly, mechanical engineering as a subject is so broad. You can be a specialist in just thermodynamics, or even just particular areas of thermodynamics, and then completely, you could just move into structural stuff, and it's completely different. And you've obviously got still the laws of motion, but that's not really going to be. You're not going to be able to be an expert in everything, and if you try to be, you'll probably just end up not using a lot of stuff. It's better just having that sort of understanding, general understanding of all sort of courses.
One thing I might mention that I found particularly useful that I did learn at university is reading technical drawings. So understanding third angle projection, being able to look at a drawing and tell what you're looking at in sort of 3D space. That's one, I guess, concrete skill that might be kind of helpful. Whether you're in sort of what Andrew does in Richmond, or whether you're in Williamstown doing sort of maritime stuff, everything comes back to, or in a lot of cases, everything ends up coming back to a drawing. And if you have a little bit of experience looking at that, it makes it easier sort of at the beginning. But if you don't, you'll pick it up because you have to. But that's something that I had a little bit of knowledge on from my degree, and that I ended up actually sort of applying a little bit once I started. So that's one thing.
Excellent. Next question is, do BAE do any consulting? As far as I know, and guys, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe so.
Yeah, I don't know of any. I guess it's a very big company and there's lots of things going on. That sometimes, honestly, I still hear of things you go, wow, that's really cool. I did not know we did that. Like,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So it could be, and that's just the nature of defense, I guess, that sometimes there's a lot of need to know principles on things. So people will know and people will be able to sort of direct you, but unless you're looking for those things.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, I don't know of any consulting.
What point or year in an engineering degree would be best to do an internship? So I'm not too sure if there's course requirements about when that needs to be done. We do prefer to look at people who are in their second to last year for internships, but we do also consider people earlier on as well. The next question is, the nature of the work of a defence company can be ethically controversial. How does BAE tackle ethics and ethical issues? So this is something that gets raised with us quite a bit, and we completely understand that some people might not sit comfortably with the types of activities that we do. I guess employees working for us are really understanding that the work we do is critical in providing safety to Australians. So I guess ethics is involved in everything that we do. We take it seriously, but to us, we're providing a really important service to Australians. Are there any form of learning opportunities for international students? Learning opportunities. So again, with international students and people who aren't Australian citizens, we really do wish that we could open up opportunities for all. Unfortunately, with the nature of the work that we do, a lot of the projects that we work on, it's a requirement that people are an Australian citizen to be able to access, and we even have restrictions on if you don't have a defence clearance, you might not be able to sit in a room with a team of people. So it can get really difficult for us to facilitate those type of arrangements. So at the moment, there's not really too much in that area. The next question is, what do you enjoy most about working at BAE, and do you get to blow stuff up? So yeah, go Ed.
I haven't seen anything blow up yet. But the coolest things I've probably done while I've been here is one thing I've done a few sort of trips interstate. So one a couple of weeks or maybe a month or so into my first rotation back when I was in Williamstown, I headed over with a few other engineers and project manager to Western Australia for a project that we were working on. I got to visit one of the ships that we were installing our project onto. That was really, really cool. So we got to walk through a whole, just like alongside while in the water, basically. A ship with a whole of Navy personnel walking around, seeing people working on things and, opening stuff up and getting to walk into all the compartments and stuff, seeing where your work is actually going to go. That was really, really cool. Second rotation, so over in Richmond doing weapon system stuff, I went over to Adelaide, over in Edinburgh Parks. I did some testing there. I got to watch this big vibration table shaking this box of stuff for a while. That was really, really cool. I've seen a big box of metal get dropped off a forklift and filmed it and pulled a chain and seen that stuff happening. So those practical things happen. I haven't seen any explosions, but I've seen some cool stuff.
I reckon the only explosion I've seen, so we did some shock testing last year. I can't remember what year it was. Ed, were you around when we were doing shock testing?
It was just after I got there, I think. So it would have been last year. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So where essentially we replicate a underwater shock. So if a ship goes past a landmine and this huge explosion goes off, you've got to replicate that to make sure our equipment can survive that sort of shock. One of the components did not survive, and components just went everywhere. So thankfully, it was all within a sort of metal casing to protect it, and there's lots of sort of JHA sort of issues to sort of, the protection measures. So we were never going to be in danger, but that definitely did blow up, and I think a component went about 10 meters across the room, so a little piece of plastic sitting on the floor. So yeah, that was I guess fun to watch, but also as sort of designing the system, not fun to have to try and go back to the drawing board and do all that. But yeah, same sort of thing. Yeah, some great slow motion video, and you see things just in a completely different light. I guess I was lucky enough, similar to Ed. So part of the Nulka system sort of set to work. We installed it onto the ship and got to walk around LHD and walking along the flight deck and sort of sitting in the middle of Sydney Harbour. You know, it was tough work for climbing. I think we bottom to top of LHD is something like 15 flights of stairs. So going up and down that a couple of times, you know, you're pretty exhausted. But yeah, you're in the middle of Sydney Harbour on a massive ship. So yeah, that was pretty cool to see. And to see the stuff that, you know, we've been designing actually being used by the Navy and the ADF. You know, you actually, yeah, they really appreciate it, and they're probably more excited about it than you because you've been dealing with it for so long. Otherwise, you know, assembling flight rounds, some of that, like prototypes, and sort of getting to build things that, you know, eventually will become rockets down the line. So there's lots of little things around the place that you sort of get given. Hey, can you go do this? Can you go do that? I definitely appreciate, you know, even today, spent the morning sort of doing some procurement for sort of a batch of equipment we need to order, then on to some design work for some little components we're doing, and then doing some drawings for those. So even within my one day, it's sort of 3 completely different things. So it's always great. There's always something going on.
Yeah, so you won't see stuff blow up necessarily, but you'll see things that can blow up, and you get to talk about explosions at least.
Yeah.
Perfect. Can you recommend any other places or companies that international students can apply for internships or graduate programs? So being from South Australia, I'm not too sure with, I guess, local companies there. I think there are quite a large number of companies out there who do open up opportunities there. I think as soon as you start talking about government and defence, with the security clearance requirements, that could start to narrow it down a little bit. Do you guys know of anything local?
No, I would, I guess, echo those things that it's sort of, you know, it's from the government side, I guess, that these sorts of restrictions come in place. You know, it's if we want to work on these projects, we need to provide people who are cleared to do it. So it's not as if we're just sort of going, no, we can't accept these people. It's actually, you know, the government, and then even within that, countries will sort of say, no, you can't work on this stuff. If it's a collaboration, you can't work on it if you are from this background. So it's a shame because, you know, it's obviously great engineers who aren't necessarily from Australia, but it's the government. But yeah, I don't know. Do you know anything?
No, not in defence or government anyway. I mean, it sort of answers the next question as well, but it's not our choice as a company. It's sort of above our heads as to the people that we can accept, at least as I understand it.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. That does answer the next one. Is there an age limit for internship or graduate opportunities? Absolutely not. We definitely don't only look for young people. So as I said before, everything we look at is a piece of the puzzle. And I guess diversity in a workplace is super important. So if we had all young people, it might not end so well. We do need a good balance. So yeah, no age limits there.
We'll just answer the last 3 questions and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
All right. What sort of entry-level jobs might put someone in a good position to be a competitive applicant for internships? So I think if you are able to do any sort of work experience with any defence companies, those sort of opportunities really do stand out to us. In saying that, even just a local job at, you know, your local Macca's is absolutely fine. It shows that you can work in teams. I come from fast food, so I know the types of pressures and the environments that can bring. It definitely, it shows, you know, you can talk to people, you can deal with conflict and difficult situations. I think any work experience is better than none, is what I would say. There's a question about Nulka and how you test the missile decoy system.
Oh, this is a good one.
I guess to go, it's somewhat with the way we test, it's not just build it all up, press go and watch it whoosh off and do, there's actually a lot of work that goes in place to, and again, it's a lot of the system sort of approach where you will, the whole thing we broken down, I think there's 5 subsystems, and then within that, there's another, few little components within each sort of subsystem. So for the decoy system side, I guess we can go both sides. There's the launch subsystem side, which I guess Ed and I worked on, the decoy side as well. And that, both of them, I guess, get tested in small little components. Then you sort of build up and you test it at the next level, and then you put a bit more together, test a little bit more. And then in the end, there are eventually a flight trial where, in, I guess, collaboration with the Defence Force, we will organise to go to a known location and sort of launch one of these off, to generally, basically to test that. And even then, it might still be done. Okay, the first time you do it with a certain, I guess, trajectory or however it's going to, flight path, and then you might try something different, and then you try a few different, it's slowly building up to reduce your risk, because in the end you want to see it work. So as much as work you can do early on, you want to try and do to prove the system's fine, and then it's the final, all systems go, send it off.
Yeah, so we don't launch actual missiles at these things, if that's what you're asking. To test them anyway.
Excellent. All right. And the final question is, does BAE offer the opportunity to work overseas or in cooperation with other defence companies often? I think often is probably a good keyword here. So we definitely do have offices across the world. And we do try to open up opportunities where we can, for people to do like secondments or that sort of thing if they like. In terms of working in cooperation with other defence companies, a number of our projects we do collaborate with other defence companies on. So there's a project in WA where we work with Saab and I think it might be Raytheon off the top of my head. But yeah, so there are opportunities for us to cross collaborate and work with other companies as well.
I definitely, I think even so, the Nulka launch subsystem side, we deal with Saab and we deal with a few other companies. I think the biggest one, so I was trying to find out what the website was called, the Australian Defence.com.au. It's just like a Australian Defence News. People are probably familiar with it. You look up there and there's heaps of things that you just type in BAE and you'll be able to see all the different news articles that we've been collaborating with somebody. If you want, I guess, as a hint or tip to sort of learn more about BAE, look through some of these news articles, because you'll find the project, and then from there you can work more and you can find out exactly what's going on. So, there's works that get done with Boeing. There's works that get done with so Saab, Raytheon, Lockheed, heaps, because these massive, you think, I guess, of Hunter class as a big one, big ship program that we're doing. We're the prime, but we do send a lot of that work out as well. Not a lot. We send some of the work out, because we know that Lockheed Martin have just maybe got the best I don't know, combat systems there, or they've got this, they've got that. You don't try and do it all yourself, because you're going to try and use the people you've got. It's such a big project that you need other people on board. So definitely always working with other companies. You might not necessarily interface with them. It might just be 1 or 2 people, but there's lots of opportunities to be collaborating.
All right, great. Well, I think we will end it there. Brenna, could you just recap the application process and where people can find more information about BAE Systems?
Absolutely. So if you just type into Google BAE Systems Australia Careers, that will take you to our careers website, where we're currently advertising all of our graduate opportunities. Applications have been extended and are closing on Sunday, the 19th of April. So there's plenty of time to update anything that you need to and to get that in.
Cool, great. Well, I appreciate the 3 of you, I guess, joining at this time. I just hoped it was a time when, you know, your work day was finished and a number of our members wouldn't have any classes or anything. So yeah, this will, to all the attendees that are left right now, we've lost about half the audience, so that's all right.
Tough crowd.
I mean, my dinner's cooking right now, so once this is over, I'll run downstairs and hopefully it's not burnt. But this was our first session we have held, so I would love any feedback from anyone. Not right now. You can either email MAEA. I hope everyone knows our email. It's on our website if you do not know what it is. Or any members who are currently in the Slack group. Just send us a message on there and we can improve for our next session, which will be next Wednesday at the same time. So I'll send an email out to everyone regarding that and who we'll be chatting with. But yeah, thank you, Brenna, thank you, Andrew, and thank you, Ed, for the time again. And hopefully when you know, the viruses, hopefully, sorry, I was just reading the messages that are coming through still on my end.
That's okay.
Hopefully when the virus is not a threat anymore and some of the isolation restrictions are lifted, we can maybe participate in more face-to-face events in the future.
Absolutely.
We still have Industry Day. We have postponed that till September, September 16th. That, though, is obviously in the balance of what progresses over the coming months. And we'll have to assess closer to the date if it's safe for our members, for the industry to attend. But everyone will be notified of that in due course. But thanks again. Thank you for everyone attending, and we hope to see you. I hope to see the members for more online events in the near future. Thanks.
Excellent. Thanks so much for having us, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.